I love that. Howdy, 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 and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight. We've got quite the topic to go over tonight, and quite a lot of discussion is going to be going on. Please remember that in the chat, please keep it as civil as possible. Also, if you have a question or you have a comment, preface it with question or comment in all caps, and then go from there. I'll try to get to each and every one of them. I am open for open debate, open discussion about things, but I ask that we keep it in a civil manner. We try to be as positive and supportive as possible with each other. Before we get started, you know how this always works. We got to find something out. What is that weather report, and what is it, Clearwater Chad?
Hey, Poe, we'll get right to work. We got a lot of work to do. Weather in Clearwater, Buffalo is 31 degrees, Poe. Precip is at 0. Wind is at 1, and it's 71% humid, Poe.
Excellent, sir. Thank you so very much. And as always, folks, say howdy to Chad. Chad will be in the chat for the rest of it. I'm going to go ahead and pull you on out, Chad.
Thank you.
My next guest, who is going to be joining me tonight for this, and been looking forward to it. We always have great discussions, and someone that I truly appreciate. I find her and her husband both, I think, are excellent people. I consider them friends of mine. And as I've said before, that a lot of times if I have questions about some things that are going on that I would like an honest answer to, and I would like a moral answer to, then I go to them. And so everyone, please welcome my friend and yours, Marilyn Honig. Hi,
Hello.
Marilyn.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Looks like we got a pretty good crowd in here tonight already.
Right. So, hi, everybody.
And I see Duncan's in the chat.
Oh,
howdy,
yes.
Duncan. So let's take a moment here. Let's see who all we got here, because the chat's boiling by pretty quick on me. Right. Lene Banahan, Summer Savage, Valerie Watson, Hanus 58, Tamber June. And Tamber, if you can't make it because you got the PT meeting this evening, by all means, thank you for having been here. From Jehovah's Witness to Declared Apostate, welcome back. Alicia Medley.
Hi.
Some dude named Clearwater Chad. Jen Nelson, Shelly Kelly. Hey, what's going on? Tazzy Devil from Tasmania. Awesome. I'd love to have one of those, but I have a feeling it'd tear the house to shreds. Marjan, as everybody know, Marjan is one of the OG original
Hi, Marjan.
Channel here. We love Marjan. Mary Smith, how's it going? Free as an equal. Duncan Honig in the chat. And just making sure we're catching up. Helen CP. Oh, you're gonna Incarnasol. I'm sorry, folks, but I get tongue-tied so easy. Miss Sunrise Dawn, welcome. Let's see, Shane, Helen, Hillary Murphy. And Hillary, I see your question. I'm gonna star it. I'll bring it up, back it up in a minute here. Shannon Lee. Hey, Joel McCoy, what's up, brother?
Hey, Joel.
The Inappropriate Heifer. Hillary Murphy.
I love her.
Lathenda, I am going to murder that last name. Grockling, Lathenda Grockling. Okay, and from Germany, welcome. Is it Afitacene? I believe it is. It's been a long time. I haven't tried German in a long time. Louise, Erica. Oh, it's building up pretty good in here tonight. Betsy Gar, Jane Doe. For the longest time, people call me John Doe because they read my last name wrong.
Jane Doe is a very love person. Her name is Jane.
There you go. Jedi Khaleesi 82. So TQCX9. Going Rogue. I like that one. All right. Oh, and Grouchy Mama Bear.
Grouchy Mama Bear. I like that one.
I like that one too. That's
I relate.
Okay. Do you know about the death of Kyle Brennan? Do you know about that, Marilyn?
A little bit, yeah. His mom has a blog. It was deemed an unaliving, and there's some things that were, a little off about it, a little suspicious. They didn't do. Actually, it would be a really good one for you to check out and weigh in on, because Doug had talked about it, and they hadn't done the gunpowder residue test. And there's a lot of different things. And his mom just wants to know what happened.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you that for the most part, and I know you still see it in television and in a lot of movies where they do, what do they call it? The name has changed over the years, but it's a test where they take, it literally looks like the topper of like a bingo dabber, and you rub it over the fingers of a person who has that you suspect has had some use of a firearm, and put it all together, send it to the lab. The problem is that there's so many ways you can get false positives with that, and it doesn't give you a timeline of how long ago it was when that person was had actually been in contact with a firearm or with gunpowder or anything like that. So the residue test is not very accurate, and as a matter of fact, a lot of departments throughout the country no longer use it. I know most of them here in Michigan don't use it anymore. It's just not a very effective test, and it gives a lot of, yes, it can show you that someone has had contact or has fired a firearm, but it does not tell you when that happened or if that person actually was the person who did it. They could have merely shook hands with someone who has done it. And the thing is, it's not very good. But I can tell you this, I will look into this, and I will make a concerted effort to, let's see, Hillary, I will make a concerted effort and look into this much deeper and see what I can dig up for you.
Hillary said, "Oh, I can't click on it. The detective on the case never went to the crime scene of Kyle Brennan."
We're seeing a lot of things like that when it's involved with people who have mysteriously gone to the other world from being involved with Scientology. There's a lot of where we talked about it in the Whitney Mills case, where I was talking to Aaron about that. And the fact
it happened in
that
Clearwater, the Kyle Brennan thing, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well, what really threw me off about that whole thing is that they were speaking to people on the phone that they couldn't verify who these people were and using them as witnesses in the case. So that right there is a huge red flag for me, because if you're going to be involved in a case and you're going to be the detective that's actually investigating it, the only time I would do something like that is literally if I picked up my phone and I saw someone, I knew that someone was a witness to it and I had their number myself. I would call them from my cell phone and I would talk to them because I could verify. I'd know the voice and I already know the number. I know who the person is. I've gotten their contact information before and I verified it. In that case, they were talking to people that they've never talked to before. So you have people that you can't verify who they are, and you're taking statements over the phone from someone you don't even know who it is.
Right.
That completely throws a lot of red flags up, and it's things that can get a case thrown out if there's ever any kind of prosecution on it. So there's a lot of things that happen, especially around people who are no longer with us, and they were involved in the in Scientology in one way or another. And Hillary, Hillary, I'm going to put my email address down here. And if you could get in touch with me, I will definitely look into this, and I will see what I can find out and what my thoughts are on the whole incident of it. And thank you for bringing him up, because the fact is I just did a live not too long ago with Liz Ferris, and one of the things we need to do is we need to keep bringing up these victims. We need to keep them fresh, and we need to keep saying their names so that they're not forgotten. And so this fight that continues on, we keep handling it properly. So, all right, Marilyn, it's been an interesting week or two, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It has.
I think one of the things that really sparked off a lot of attention to what's going on now is the response letter that was received by Rabbit in connection to, what was it, 16 questions that were asked?
Yes, 16.
And so those 16 questions were asked, and they were responded to by an attorney from the Aftermath Foundation. And there was some very interesting statements that were made in there. Some I don't even understand where they would come from or what the purpose of those statements were. But, I just, like I said at the beginning, I value your input. I value what you have to say. I know you're going to give us an honest answer to things, or you're going to give us an honest explanation about your thoughts on things. So I thought that you would be the perfect person to bring on and let's have this discussion.
Well, I'm definitely not always right, but I am always honest. I can definitely promise you that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is none of us are 100%
Right.
right on anything.
Hmm.
We all I make mistakes. Every one of us makes mistakes, and the thing is that we just try to be as honest as we can when we're talking about issues. Well, anything in our personal life. Try to be as honest as possible and go forward with it, and try to be that right person. Be empathetic, be caring, and compassionate. And I think
Absolutely.
that it's important that this discussion needs to be had because there's so many questions lying around it, and a lot of people want to know if am I thinking the right way? Am I not thinking the right way? Am I looking at things wrong? What are your thoughts so far going into this?
Well, I want to start by saying a little bit of like where I'm coming from. I'm not an expert in anything except maybe crochet. That's really the only thing I can actually maybe claim to be an expert in. I have a little, I guess you call it I don't really call it a show because I don't feel like this is a show on YouTube. This
Yeah.
is life. And I don't look at it as a show. But anyways, I have this thing called morning musings. Sometimes it's midday musings, sometimes it's midnight, but it's usually morning
Yeah.
musings. And I call it morning musings because I'm not an expert. And it just comes up from what I have been thinking about, and or the feedback that I've gotten from my viewers. So of course, when these things come up, there's been issues in the past that people, you're on there trying to talk about, I don't know, something that has nothing to do, like say I'm talking about Jehovah's Witnesses or something, and the chat is blowing up with things about the Aftermath Foundation. It's
Hmm.
like, so I take a pause. The other day we had somebody who was distraught in the chat. We just stopped. Someone sent me a message, and we just stopped and we talked to the person and tried to get them some help. So that's where I'm coming from, is that I really feel like I just, if nothing else, I want to keep my fingers on the pulse of this community and what are important to people. And I want to just lend a space, a place to talk. And like when our friend Doug passed away, I had nothing to say, Paul. I was so upset. I just sat there and clicked
I
on the
remember we
thing.
talked.
People sent hearts to
Yeah.
Doug, and to each other. So that's kind of where I feel like my you know, I don't know, it maybe my place right now is just to lend support. I've had
I,
several second gens come to me and ask to tell their thoughts and their stories. So I'm not going around like you asked me to come on. It's not like I just want to make a little disclaimer here
yeah.
because there's things going around. Like, I just want to make one thing straight. I absolutely do not want to be on any board. I will not be on any board. I will say no if I'm asked, which I have not been asked. So I do not have any, what do you call it, dog in this fight. I don't
Right. Excellent.
know.
You're
So
stealing my words now.
yeah.
We're well, I think that, like in the case of Liz Ferris, where she literally says that I'm like an adopted father to her. I think that that's the way a lot of people in the community look at you, as a mother type figure. You're very loving, very welcoming, and you make people feel at ease. And they know that when they listen to you and what you've got to say, that you're at least trying to be as honest as possible about everything, and they can trust what you're saying. So I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on here. Another one is you have actual experience in the five, is it the 501
Yes.
c3 or whatever that,
Yes.
yeah. I
Yes.
don't, yeah, 501c3.
Mhm.
I don't have any real experience in that. I've always stayed clear of being part of any kind of charitable organization because to me, it's a very sticky ground, and it's there's a lot of traversing you have to do to get through it.
Yep.
I know that you have a lot of experience in it, and I felt that you were the perfect person on that end to also bring on here because you can explain a lot about these 501c3s. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
the process is pretty much the same. Mine, it's not mine. The one I founded, there's 7 board members, and um, none of us are related. None of us are really super friendly outside of that. Like
right.
we're friends, but we don't go on vacations, do anything like that together. And I like it that way. And so
Yeah.
what happened was, real quick, I'll give you a little bit of background. So there was a string of terrible fires in our county in 2019, And I just wanted to help. I just started like a little Facebook group so that we could get donations to the fire survivors. And fast forward a year, several of the volunteers that were helping me had the idea to start a 501c3. One of our founding board members has like a little scholarship fund for her grandson that passed away. And so we went through the process. We had a lawyer pretty much do everything because we didn't really know. I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't want to be responsible for starting this. So we learned a lot from going and talking to so many people. I've made really good friends in the nonprofit sector in the past 5 years. And, I've been a volunteer for many, many years. I've been in the sector, but not as a founder and president and everything. Like, I understand where Claire's coming from because, I'm like kind of in the executive director role too, but it's very, very small. We just file a postcard on 90 for our 990 and we just give gift cards. But like I said, I've talked to.
What is a 990?
Okay, so 990 is the form that the IRS requires a 501c3 to file every year. And there's, I could be wrong, but I know of 3 tiers that, 3 types of 990s that you have to file depending on what type of 501c3 you are. So if you take in less than $50,000 in a year, you only do what's called a postcard. Right. So you just file, and we have an accountant that does it for us because, again, I like to have people that are experts at what they do it right. Because I want all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, right? Absolutely. So he usually does it pro bono. He does it pro bono. He does it for us. It only takes a few minutes, but he's really, really good at it. Just sends it out. So that's that. If you take in over $50,000, there's another form that goes with it, and it's it's more of a long form, a 990. Then if you are a private foundation, which at first I thought that the Aftermath was a private foundation, and when I looked into it, I'm 99% sure they're not, because they can call themselves a foundation. That's, you can call yourself anything, but private foundations usually have a, either it's a family foundation or they have what's called an endowment. And there's a lot of different laws that come with that, where they're required to do certain things per year. They have to have another form attached and blah, blah, blah. A private foundation usually gives, like, we've had little small grants from private foundations. Usually, the big foundations you can think of, right? They tend to give grants to smaller nonprofits. So we've gotten grants. So anyways, so if you're not considered having religious exemption, if you are a quote charity where you're giving aid to people like the Aftermath does, like what we do, we do disaster relief, then you're considered a public charity. Doesn't mean that you have to just give all your funds to any public person. It's for the public benefit, but it's for a certain group of people. Like, we do disaster relief. Probably 80% of the people that we serve are fire survivors. The rest are things like floods, accidents, disaster relief. So that's, and I just want to mention too, is that I'm part of a network called Community Stakeholders, and it's all executive directors, founders, and presidents and board members of several nonprofits in my area. And at one time, I think we had about 20, and we would check in, especially during COVID, every week. We'd be like, okay, so what project are you working on? Okay, do you need help with that? I have some volunteers looking for help. So we would network, and I learned so much from them. I also am in as many Facebook groups, nonprofit Facebook groups as I can as well. So I have learned quite a bit. Now, you brought up, where do you want to start? You want to start with the letter?
Oh, I've got, I'm editing my notes as I go here. That's what I'm doing. Well, there's a lot of things I would like to get into on this. I think the letter is a great place to start. And I'll start off with, a lot of people have been questioning the fact that the attorney for the Aftermath Foundation is involved in it at this point. I can tell you from personal experience that the moment that the Aftermath Foundation was brought up in the questions that were presented, that makes it involved, and that would be a reason why the attorney can chime in on it. I've said it before, and you hear it from a lot of judges. Once you open those barn doors and the horses are out, they're out. I'm not defending it. I'm just giving you an honest opinion as to what I have seen in the past and my personal experiences. Is anytime you're looking at an organization like that and you bring them up into something that would be considered more of a personal letter to someone, and then you bring in an organization into that questioning, that therefore opens the doors. And that, I know that there are a lot of people upset about the fact that the attorney was the one who answered it, but that's an explanation as to how he could be involved with it. Your thoughts on that, Marilyn?
Okay. I'm going to be, honest, fair, and objective. Yes, it was mentioned. I think it was in question 6.
Mhm.
And there was a comment I saw from Mark Headley saying that a rabbit sent us a letter. A rabbit did not send us a letter, meaning the Aftermath board.
Okay.
Alex the rabbit, which I'm glad she doesn't give her last name, because I don't want any crazies going after her. So she is a social worker. She actually has something like 3 degrees, and she was being basically a
Courier.
advocate, right.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, an advocate, but also she was just sending the letter,
Right.
those questions, which really was coming from a place of hurt. I when I read
Mhm.
those questions, I don't even really think that Miriam was necessarily expecting an answer. Of course, she wants answers to these questions, but
Absolutely.
they were coming from a place of hurt and of wanting answers, wanting some type of validation for the terrible things that she had suffered, and wanted
Right.
to know what he knew. So yes, the
Well,
Aftermath Foundation was mentioned, but
watching
that's a
watching
stretch. It's a stretch.
Rabbit's live stream on it, and I just want to cut in for a second here.
Mhm.
She made it very clear. Miriam wrote those questions. She did not want to touch them. She wanted them to be in Miriam's word before she forwarded them on. She didn't
Right.
mess with them in any way. I just wanted to make that clear, because a lot of people were upset that they were saying Rabbit should have rewritten the questions and all that. I
No.
think she did exactly what she should have done. She let
Yep.
Miriam have her voice and let that voice be heard. And I
She
think
was
that's
acting
very
as like a mediator and saying,
Yep.
these are the questions. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So the fact that it was brought up, it was very loose. It wasn't, I mean, legally, I think you're right. I think that the fact that because it was mentioned, it opened the
Yeah.
door. But for the Aftermath Foundation to not only send a letter from the lawyer, but to mention fleas and dogs, like anyone I've talked to are just blown away by this. And I can tell you right now, like I mean, this wouldn't happen because I have such a little tiny nonprofit, but
Yeah.
other people that I know that run really big nonprofits, they're not going to go after a person that they're supposed to be helping, you know?
I'm
It's
gonna dive into that right
bad.
now. That whole fleas and dogs thing. As I read that, as I listened to the reading of the response and then read it later as it had been posted online, it just screamed to me Scientology. It
Yeah.
screamed OSA.
Yeah,
And
so
you know,
horrible. Yeah.
I personally, when I read that, I was just like, wow, this is like they haven't even left the organization, and they've fallen right back into the positions that they were in.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that were speculating about it as to whether Render had written those out and had handed them over to the attorney to give out. I don't care either way. I just have no idea what in the world the purpose was of the fleas and dogs comment, because it has no bearing in what's going on with that. And I think that the fact that there is no reference as to why you would say it, I think that just leaves everything open, and it makes no point at all. It actually has no substance to the letter itself. What do you think?
Except to insult,
Yeah.
possibly intimidate, send like no pun intended, dog whistle, Um, and again, you're adding insult to injury to a person, a
Mhm.
vulnerable population for which you are incorporated to be helping.
Yeah.
It's not about defending Mike Render's action or letting him in my opinion, it's a misuse of it. It is a abuse of power. It's another intimidation tactic. I'm not saying it's illegal, but it's certainly unethical, and it's
I'll tell you
certainly out of it's out of anything I would ever imagine that a public charity board would do. And we
I'll-
can talk about that,
yeah.
the makeup of the board and their
Oh yeah, we're gonna
their
get into that.
mission statement, the mission statement. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
there's some
I'll tell you
systemic issues.
something that threw up some major red flags for me was as I was hearing Miriam discuss how she had gone about talking to, and I believe it was Claire she was talking to, how they were doing this through Facebook Messenger as the way that they were communicating. I felt that that was to me personally, that felt very inappropriate.
You mean when she
That they
was
would be
asking
when I
for
believe
aid?
Miriam was talking about requesting the money for the PTSD counselor,
Yep.
and the discussion was back and forth. And the problem I have is you're doing this on a public messenger forum on Facebook that I feel that that should have either been through email, some kind of private messenger service where other people don't look at how many people get hacked every day on Facebook. So you've got those 2 points that are going there on it, or even
Yes.
just do it through a phone call. That really just it threw me off that
Yeah.
you're handling business through that open public messenger service like that. And that,
Even if it's a private message,
yeah,
that's just Facebook. I mean, yeah, emails should be and not to bring up old things here, but it
mhm,
did make me feel like a little bit about a lot of even the private emails that are going back and forth, going back and forth.
right,
I think that these communications are misused. Like, I don't think they've taken any courses on nonprofits, and I don't think they understand that there's certain things that actually need a formal vote.
right,
And they do a lot of the day-to-day operations can be done by email. But if you actually need to vote on something, especially policy-wise, you need to call an emergency meeting right away.
yeah,
You know,
and
and who is holding them accountable?
yeah,
Obviously, no one, because the stakeholders have no say,
right,
no
and
say at all.
I gotta say, with the pandemonium we all just went through and everything, it is now become appropriate, and it's used millions of times a day where they hold these meetings via Zoom or something along those lines, and that's another way that it can be done. It's a live, real-time, secure way of doing it. They're doing it through video, but it's a thing where everybody's there. And I agree with you 100%. There shouldn't have been this, okay, I'll look into it and I'll see what I can
Yeah,
do for you and all that. It should have been to the point of, all right, we've got to have a meeting. We got to put this out there and we've got to vote on it and see what we can do with things. I just don't, for me, that whole Facebook Messenger thing just throws
yeah,
me off. It also screams of unprofessionalism.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
I agree with that.
I'm,
Janet said something. I think he's
mhm.
conflating two statements.
Oh,
Miriam spoke
where's
with Claire. It's
Janet?
Janet with a palm tree at 8:28.
Oh, there we go. Okay, let me pull that up real quick. I
Yeah.
think he's conflating two statements. Miriam spoke with Claire on the phone and submitted an application. Correct, but I believe that there was actual, from what Miriam said that there was actual discussion back and forth on Facebook Messenger concerning that. And that's what I'm going by on there. And I have no doubt whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I do believe I remember her saying something about an application and all that. But it was the discussion of it further on past that point that was happening on Facebook Messenger, and to me that's where there's a problem with it. It's just not a professional platform that you would be
Right.
holding discussions on something like that.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
as something there's a lot of things that are really getting me on this. I think that instead of that letter that was sent out, I think that no response would have been the appropriate way
Mhm.
to handle that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, as someone on the middle ground, and as having been a police officer, I've had to do this a number of times, is the fact that, this whole thing, we've gotten letters like that at the police departments I've worked for. And I'm going to tell you right now, almost pretty much every one of them, I literally sent right to the legal department and they handled it from there. And most of the time, their response is, we're not even responding to this. So,
Right.
the thing is that, yeah, I can understand not answering it at all. And I can also see where a lot of those questions could lead towards an incrimination kind of statement if they were answered.
I
So
wouldn't
I can
answer
understand.
him either if I were
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
I mean, and let's be 100% honest, folks. If you got a letter like that, I mean, how would you respond to it? The thing is that taking, that response, oh my gosh. Duchess, I'm talking about Facebook Messenger. I'm not a huge tech person, but I can, a lot of times I'll say Facebook
Yeah.
Messenger, but
Maybe
that's
they
what I
didn't
mean.
talk on Messenger. I don't know. I don't remember that part. I listened
Yeah.
to it twice, so I don't know.
Um,
I obviously missed that part.
Freedom from religion. I don't think Mike Render needed to answer the questions, but I also think the AF attorney should have responded to the questions directly to. And
Yes.
that's a good
Yep.
point on it. That
Yep.
that instead of sending that letter to Rabbit or Miriam or whoever it was sent to, I don't remember who exactly it was sent to, but instead
Right.
of sending that response to them, there should have been a response to Mike and just basically told him, zip it, don't say anything. I think that would have been the appropriate way to go. And it was brought to my attention that the attorney who's in this, and I think Marilyn, you can second that as well, is this attorney has no connection with Scientology other than being someone who's brought litigation against Scientology. So, there were some people saying, "Oh, he sounds like he's an OSA attorney," and from everything that I know, he has no actual involvement in Scientology. Yeah. So, all right. So let me get into my notebooks here. The first thing that I have a question with is the fact of there's no delegation of authority in the foundation as it appears. The statements that I've heard, it sounds as though Claire is handling everything. As someone who has run a nonprofit yourself, how does that work, especially on a nonprofit that's bringing in pretty good amounts of money?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. In my case, a handful of people can totally run what we do because
Right.
we have a small small budget, and we do gift cards. So I do delegate things. We have taken on programs that are just too much for one person. And I've gotten to the point where if I can't do it myself or with one or two board members, we don't do it. We're all volunteer, just like the Aftermath Foundation is. And as you get bigger, and I don't think that I think that this whole YouTube thing, they exploded on the scene, and we'll talk about, public funds and public appeals for funds. That's another whole ball of wax there. But when you're talking about a bigger corporate, it's a corporation, it's a business, it's a nonprofit business, but it should be run like a business, like a corporation. So there's, so the board members are they're like the lawmakers. They're the executive. They basically set down policy, and a lot of boards help a lot with fundraisers. That's what a board tends to do as well, and the ones that I know of. And so they do that. They also hire someone to do the day-to-day operations. So they have an executive director. They
Well,
usually have.
I was going to hit on that. I've seen a lot of nonprofits where the secretary, the accountant, the PR people are all separate from the board itself.
Exactly.
So
And they're not, and the executive director is usually a non-voting board member. The board hires the ED, and the ED would hire an assistant generally, like an administrative assistant. And then, like you said, you've got things like the an accountant, a lawyer. Like, one thing I can say that the board of the Aftermath is doing right is not having what's his name, Ray Jeffries, do the actual lawyering, because he's on the board. That's a conflict of interest.
Wow.
I don't know if they have an accountant or a CPA that does. I think Claire does have. I don't know if she has an accounting degree, but I know she's the president. I believe she's also the treasurer. And I'm not saying like I think she's doing a fine job. I'm sure she's not doing anything, shady, but it doesn't, there's so many things with optics. Optics do matter when it comes to a public charity, when it comes to that type of thing, because People vote with their money, their time, their trust, their
Look at the
support.
shadow this is thrown on the Aftermath Foundation.
Mhm.
Whether it's positive or negative, everybody is talking about it. And there
Yeah.
are a lot of people
And
who
they
are
have a right
very
to. They have
angry.
every right to
Yep.
talk about it. If
And
you gave $5, if you even sat
mhm,
up all night and sent, letters, or if you volunteered to be a volunteer, anything, you do have a right to ask questions. You too.
yeah. Well, here's I think that this is a perfect lead into another question I have for you. A nonprofit is a business that that can even make a profit. It will have overhead along with G&A. What's G&A? Do you know what that is?
No.
Freedom, if you can
DNA.
expand on G&A,
Yeah, I'm not
but
sure what that is.
they can charge fees
Overhead.
on papers they
Overhead.
might prepare for a customer like a government. My question is can they have what would be considered employees who are paid by that actual
Yes.
that
Absolutely.
yeah, that was something
Absolutely. Yeah,
um
absolutely. They are, but again, they don't have a vote on the board.
yeah. And that's
They're
something that
employees. Mhm.
they're there to do as they're directed to do.
Right.
Or in the case of an accountant there, you guys got to stop right now. We don't have any more money to spend, or
Mhm.
we
Right.
have too much money. We need to get
Mhm.
this money out of the coffers. Now, is
Yes.
it true that at the end of the year, you pretty much have to be bankrupt as a nonprofit?
No,
No. Okay.
no, there's a certain percentage, it depends on what bracket you're in, but there's a certain percentage that you do have to allocate to the community,
Right.
and a public charity is technically you're supposed to have most of sorry, I just have a little sip of water. Stand by for a
That's
drink of water.
Well, let me get the I got a couple of
Yeah,
super chats I want to get out there first. Thanks for putting
okay.
yourself out there on Front Street. You deserve a lots of support. Thank you, Sir Crepitus. And Sir Crepitus is the newest member of my channel here. So you welcome to the
Oh,
family.
congratulations.
Happy dogs. Hello, Mr.
Hey, my
Poe and
dogs.
Marilyn. Happy Monday. Thank you both for all you continue to do for so many people. Both of your channels bring light to so many different aspects that are important to us out here. And Marilyn, I think I agree with that so much because I think that with your channel, as I've said before, I think a lot of people look to you like as a mother or a guiding kind of person, and I think that your channel is very important because you give people a safe place, and a safe feeling in that. And I just wanted to put that out there. I love watching, even though most of the time you're on when I'm driving.
I know.
So, um,
Right.
Tanya Tyler says, "Where is the accountability?"
Good question.
That's another thing that a lot of people want to know about is
Right.
where is the accountability on all this? And that's
The
actually,
accountability lies with you, all of you,
yeah.
you know?
Here's the thing. How many of us have been you and I have both been part of how many fundraisers to
Mhm.
try to help raise money for the Aftermath Foundation?
Yes.
I've personally given money to the
Me too.
Aftermath Foundation. And so I think that as someone who has donated to the Aftermath Foundation and supported them publicly like I have,
Mhm.
I think that I deserve a right to an answer as well. What do you think about
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, well, there's very basic things that you learn when
Mhm.
you go to start a nonprofit, and I
Mhm.
hope that they learn this.
Well, hold
They're
on.
definitely
Do they have
learning it
like
now.
actual courses and classes that you
You
can take?
can take them, you don't have to. You can
Okay.
just do it yourself, it's like,
Right.
you can go online and just be getting ordained, you know?
Yep.
You can do that.
Church of
So
Eternal Sunlight.
exactly. So, I really wanted to know what I was doing, getting
Yep.
myself into. So I didn't take official courses to begin with, but I looked into it and I did so much reading. And basically, when you have a public charity, you start with a board. You pick, and we can talk about the structure of the board later because that's going to be another whole can of worms.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So
So
hey,
hey
so
Liz.
hey, sweetie.
That's our girl
Um,
there. So
hi.
if
Yes,
y'all
we
don't
love
know
Liz.
Liz Ferris, she was on the other night with me and we were talking
Yes.
about about the
Subscribe to
victims.
at Pokemon and Cults is Liz's
Yeah.
channel.
Or just look up Liz Ferris in
Mm,
the search on YouTube and you'll find it.
yeah.
We love her. She's
Yes,
awesome.
we do. She's
So
amazing. She is like
taken a
my
lot.
adopted daughter.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Has taken
So
a lot of damage from Scientology and she's
yeah.
still fighting. So proud of
Mhm.
her. So,
She is. Yeah,
she went from a
absolutely.
very dark place to now she is on her feet. She's doing great. I can't say enough. It's like I said, it's like an adopted daughter to me, and I am so proud of the person she's become. Um,
Me too.
sorry, I got
Super
off the
proud.
topic there, but
No, I know we're like her parents right now. We're like, oh, we're
yeah.
so proud
Well,
of
she
her.
said, "Mom and
She's
Dad." Let's
amazing.
see. Hold on. Let
Yeah,
me get this.
I
I
love it.
wanted to star that, and I accidentally
Okay.
hit it.
Okay.
But there's
Yep.
a lot of things with that, and that was one of the questions I had about
Yep.
family involvement
Yeah.
on the
So
board.
can I just back up to your,
Yeah, go ahead. Go
the
ahead.
thing you had brought up earlier
Mhm.
about I was talking about the stakeholders because you were saying that because you gave money, you feel like you deserve an
Absolutely.
answer
Yeah.
and some consideration, and that's 100% correct. No one owns the no one owns a nonprofit. The
Yeah.
Aftermath Foundation does not belong. It belongs to no one and everyone.
Exactly.
So the board of directors are, voted board of directors, right? They could, I mean, I'm not calling for anyone to resign, I'm just saying
No.
if they did all today, the Aftermath Foundation would still be there. They are custodians. They are overseers of public funds that they appealed to the public for. So the stakeholders are, of course, the board members have a stake in it. The donors and supporters, the community, which is all of you and us, right? And the population to which they serve, right? So those are who they answer to. Like it or not, optics and reputation and trust is paramount, because
Mhm.
if you lose that, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to serve who you want, you wanted to. And I want to talk about, being trauma informed and all that. But if you want to talk
Yeah.
about the board, that's one of the things you start with. Besides your mission statement, there's, how to pick a board. If you just Google it right now, it's going to tell you, especially with a public charity with public funds and not a family private foundation. Don't pick your best friend, your husband,
Mhm.
your daughter. Don't do that. Don't do that.
There's so
Don't do
like
that.
I said, there's been so many things that have come up that have literally drawn a shadow onto this. And one of the things that has really, here's the, where did that go? Man, these questions are coming in so quick.
Oh, who both the
Who
board
votes
in?
the board
Okay.
in? Yeah.
So there's the founding members. That's a good question. There's the founding members. And when you incorporate, you start off, I know at least in Massachusetts, because I live in Vermont, but we incorporated in Massachusetts. You have to have at the very least 3 members. They have to be the president, the treasurer, and the clerk. Those are the 3 that have to be. Now, all officers are directors. Not all directors are officers, if you understand what I mean. Board
Mhm.
members. So you got the 3 main officers. We do also have a vice president, and we have what we call trustees, which is board members or directors, right? I
Mhm.
know I'm throwing a lot at you guys, but so those 3 founding members will vote in or invite the board.
Right.
Um, Depending on how big you want, you can have it as big as you want, but you have to have at least 3, at least in Massachusetts. So yeah, that's how they get voted in. And generally you pick from, ideally you have a representation of the people you're going to serve. You got 3 really tight, as thick as thieves, married couples that are all ex-Sea Org, and all top executives. I I'm not saying they should have like quote never ends or whatever, but they
Right.
should. I think they should at least have a representation of the community in which they serve.
I was just going to say that I think that that would have been a major step for them, and it would have drawn a lot of credibility to the foundation to have someone. And I'm not saying me, I'm not saying you. We're both way too busy for anything
No.
like that.
Oh, thank you.
But
Yeah.
having someone who is not a former Scientologist, who can come in with some kind of an unbiased eye going into it,
Mhm.
I think that that would have lent to their credibility incredibly. And I think that a lot of these things, especially like the fact that now the board consists of 3 married couples that all, as you said, it appears that they have done a lot of outside activities together. It really throws a lot of shadow on that. Then I think they went on a cruise just recently, all of them,
Mhm.
and it for something like that, especially if you're a nonprofit and you're supposed to be a charitable organization, you want to keep yourself as clear as possible from any kind of conflict of interest or anything that's going to make that
Mhm.
charitable organization look bad. Because the minute you start looking bad as a charity is the minute that you start losing support. You
Losing support.
start losing the people who are giving you the money.
Absolutely. And
So
also someone said something like somebody like Rabbit, like a social worker. Yes, that would
yeah,
be good. They
yeah, oh yeah,
probably shouldn't do social work while they're doing it, but they can at least, there really needs to be some trauma informed people on that board and possibly even a secondary non-voting advisory board, which is, we sort of have in my tiny nonprofit because we have volunteers that
right.
give input and we ask,
Now, if I'm correct, not only were they Sea Org, but weren't all of them, except for I think Mike's wife, weren't all of them like executives within
absolutely
Scientology?
at
They were
gold
higher
base.
placed people.
Yes, at Gold
So,
Base, and there's been a lot of talk about crimes, different
yep,
things that have been done to these children, not necessarily by them, but they may have known about it. In Matt Pesch's case, I've heard that there was a girl that was, and I'm not saying anything bad about him. I'm just saying that because he was part of the cult, he was actually driving this little girl Bianca to her hard labor job in Clearwater when she was a kid. And she said he's a nice guy and everything, but he was driving her to her. Like, Poe, would you drive a child or even a young teen to their heavy labor job in the morning, every morning?
I wouldn't be part of that.
I
I mean,
know that should be illegal.
you know,
They
I
should be in school.
I mean, it's one thing you're
No.
working on the family farm or something like that.
Right.
That's one thing. But to take a child to a huge organization to go and do manual labor, just ridiculous.
And at one
And
point she was being
Rachel,
moved.
think,
She was
yeah,
told she was being traded. Those words, traded. What does
yeah.
that sound like?
And Rachel, thank you for that super chat. They need a more trauma informed board. I agree,
Yep.
100%. At least,
Absolutely.
if not a board that's trauma informed, you need at least one or two people on there who have some
Advisors.
kind of
Mhm.
education on that. And I
And
think that,
please, didn't we learn this in kindergarten? Don't call names. Don't call your most vulnerable population fleas and dogs, and don't call your donors keyboard warriors.
yeah,
And if you
and
do, say you're sorry. Just say you're sorry. Or you didn't
yeah,
mean that. Anything.
that's the thing. And Rachel, don't worry about saying it after you thought it. Believe me, my mind races at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So when I'm typing, I generally type about 50 sentences ahead of what I'm thinking. So, yeah, let's see. I'm going over my list here because
Okay.
it's pretty crazy. I think that one of the things that I'm very interested in is the fact there's been no response other than that letter to what's going on. And I think that, as I said before, as someone who has not only donated, but someone who has actively helped in fundraisers for the organization, I feel that I and everyone else who has donated, we deserve some kind of response.
Yes.
And the fact that the silence has stayed, and the only thing that we've seen so far is a letter that just reeks of Scientology in and of
And it's
itself.
disdain, it's
Yeah.
condescension, it's contempt. It's
Yeah.
terrible. No, just no, don't do that.
Yeah. Let's see. There is murkiness with YouTube money versus donations. They both feed into each other, so there's a lot to lose. Well, that's one big thing and thank you for that super chat, Destiny. That's one of the things I don't like about. That's why I go with coffee or I go with Fourth Wall and things like that, because there is so much that is taken. If you give a super chat to me, that's one of the things that I hate seeing is that you give this money because you're supporting, but yet 30% of it's going to be taken by the platform. So I have a problem with that.
In the case of the donations, though, when they do the aftermath, it's 100%.
Is it? That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's great.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
I get yelled at for
That's why I was more than happy to let you guys run those fundraisers. I'll come in and I'll help you out, but I don't know anything about them. And that's why yeah, that's the thing is that with the YouTube donations, if they're getting 100% of it, that's awesome when it's a charitable thing.
And it's actual,
And
yeah.
that's nice to
Yeah.
see.
The chatathons that we did, I think Chad's probably listening. Those
Yeah.
we just posted their Venmo or donation button on their website or blog, or in
Yeah.
the case of the 10-hour chatathon that we did for specifically for Mike for his cancer treatments, that was to his blog, the donation button. So I think
Okay.
maybe, I don't know if it's 2.5 or 3% versus 30% is good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and let's think, I know if I remember correctly, there was some kind of statement in that letter from the attorney that says asking that the letter be shown in its entirety if they present it on any kind of social media. And,
Really?
I would
Really?
hope that, you're an attorney. I would hope that not you, I'm talking about the person who wrote it.
Yeah.
As an attorney, you would understand that the minute you sent that letter, any declaration of confidentiality or privacy, unless it's prearranged between you and the other party and there's something in place that's going to make it remain confidential, it's theirs. It's their property to put out there however they want. So, I mean, there wasn't even a need for that.
So I guess they didn't want partial, they wanted the whole thing. They wanted the whole
right.
flea bag and all. And that's just crazy to me because I feel like, number one, it was just so awful for people to see. I don't mean to laugh. It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But also it kind of reminded me and other people that was in my chat the other day of the Aftermath show. Leah Remini, Scientology, Leah Remini in the Aftermath show, when they were at the beginning, she had to read those statements from Scientology, refuting, everything that was being said. And she read those out.
Oh, yeah. I had no question whatsoever. Having watched Rabbit's content, I had no question whether or not she was going to put that whole letter out there. She puts it out there for the world to see and says, here it is, like it or not, this is what it is. And I have a lot of respect for her for that. I thought this was interesting. They did a live right after Aaron went on Rabbit's channel for the first time. Was awkward. Their silence might be less awkward than when they do talk. Not defending them, it was icky. So
they did a live after his first video when he was on with Rabbit. I don't remember them going live right after that. I think the first time they went live, as far as Mark and Claire go, I think was with Liz Ferris. I'm pretty sure, but that I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't personally. Let me put this disclaimer out there first and foremost, folks. I do not know Mark. I do not know Claire. I don't know Mike. I know none of them. Okay. The only time I've ever had any kind of interaction was if you see the wavy Davy up there on top of the guitar. That was when I sent an email to Claire, and the response I got was Wavy Davy showed up. That's pretty much the extent of it. If there might have been an email somewhere down the line where there was a response, but otherwise, I don't know them. So I don't have a personal agenda or anything in this. I'm saying this as someone who basically fell into the SPTV family, and as someone who tries to be a fair, compassionate, and empathetic party in this, a lot of times I really get this Scientology vibe by a way a lot of people act, and it's very off-putting to a lot of us who've never been in. Let's see, Flea Factory. I wonder where that name came from. So they refuse to cover any current events in SPTV land because it might take the spotlight off of them. That's an interesting statement. I'll tell you personally, when I found out Mike Renner was coming on YouTube and he was going to start his own channel, I was excited. I really was. I thought this is awesome. Not only do we have this person who was high up in the organization and is trying to make his way back, and I felt that there were a lot of sincere apologies that came out from him, and I felt that he was trying to make amends for it. I was excited, and then as more and more information comes out and what's happening, I started that excitement started going away very quickly. So I was,
Spidey senses.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and I'll just give you a really quick rundown of what I think about that. Is the Aftermath show really helped me a lot. So I felt like, I owed them a debt of gratitude. I really admired all of them, really respected,
Mhm.
highly respected all of them. They didn't know me from a hole in the wall until I started doing the Xenu costumes. But um they they had they had come out on the scene after doing, the Aftermath show and the Fair Game podcast, Leah and Mike. And
Right.
I got a lot out of that.
Yeah.
Um, I could be wrong. This is just my opinion, but I'm just going to put it out there. Now that we're seeing some of these things that came out, like the Debbie Cook thing, um, I believe that the narrative was, and things were presented in a certain way for people to have a certain perception or in perspective. Um, the narrative, I believe, was pretty much tailored to, have us believe that number one, Mike was fully reformed. Number two, the people like Debbie Cook were victims too. Their books are a lot about their victimization. What about the victimization of others? What about Bianca, who was saying that, Matt Pesh had drove her to her job? She has nightmares to this day about that woman, Debbie Cook. We never heard about that. She's the best thing since sliced bread. That's what I thought, because that's what was presented. Now, with SBTV, it was kind of presented like, okay, these are how things are going to go. Now, it's gotten to the point where it's not going the way that they had thought. Let's look always at the front lines of Scientology. We're fighting Scientology. We're fighting Scientology. Keep your eye on the prize. I did ask Claire my questions that night. It was November 20th, the night of the cake and the keyboard warrior statement. um, I emailed her and she said, basically, keep your eye on the prize. We'll look into it, because I asked her about the board. I'll ask. She said she would ask her legal counsel. That was 2.5 months ago. Never heard from her again. Right. So that was that. But this whole thing of keeping the eye on the prize. What about our wounded? If we're looking at it as like a battle or a war, what about the other aspects of a war? We're
Right.
not just fighting on the front lines. We need to take care of the people that are traumatized, the people that need help, the refugees, if you will. We need
Yeah.
to look at them too. It's not all about, it's like, don't pay no attention to Miriam. Pay no attention to this one. There are so many Miriams, and they are coming out of the woodwork.
And that's,
What
that's one of the
yesterday,
reasons why
another one came out. Gabrielle, go ahead.
that's one of the reasons why I did that live stream with Liz the other night. And if you haven't seen it, folks, it's back in my list. It's specifically about,
Heartbreak.
we have to remember there are so many victims out there that most of us have never heard of, have no inkling even exist. A lot of them are hidden in the shadows and they don't want to come out. But we have to keep our eye on it and we have to be vigilant. And I think that's one of the big things. Instead of all of the drama and chaos that's going on, the focus should be on them, and the Aftermath Foundation should be about helping them, no matter
Right.
how they feel about you as a person, what they feel about your story. If you're a victim and a survivor of this cult, you deserve some kind of help. And to me, that really
Yeah.
burns me, that here it is, they have an organization that had the ability to do so much, and now they're really being put into a dark light on it. Eat more pizza, and I love that with the Noid there. Good evening. Since Mike Render is on the Child USA board, have they made us any statement? I didn't know he was on Child USA. Did you?
Absolutely, yeah. I found that out fairly recently, but that is Child USA. Yeah, it's a big nonprofit to help ch- children victims of SA. It's for education. It's
Wow.
against child trafficking. Yeah. So,
That's
and I
wow.
understand, and I'm trying to be fair about this. I really am. I understand maybe Mike felt like part of his penance or whatever, making, feeling like he's making a difference. It burns post biscuits.
Yeah, I've had so many people say, you sound so hillbilly with some of the stuff you say.
I say it
That
all the
right
time on
there,
my channel.
that right there is about as hillbilly as it gets.
I have a cup that
Let's
says
see.
"Don't burn my biscuits." Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's see. And I'm going to get to a point that if anything has burned my biscuits, it's this one. It's about Aaron Smith Levin. To have things go down the way that they did and have Aaron kicked off the board, removed from the board, voted off, however you want to say it, to have him removed, but yet with all the allegations that have come out and leave Mike on there,
I know.
that
Yeah.
screams of impropriety. So, Gary Mackey, howdy.
Hypocrisy. Yes.
You
Hi,
know,
Gary Mackey.
that's
Hello.
the thing is that to me, that is so, it feels so unscrupulous. That just
Yeah.
feels like we're going to judge you for what you do, but you're not allowed to look at us. That's the
And
feeling I
that's
get from it.
right. And that's why you
So,
don't have besties, 3 couples, best friends on the
yeah.
board.
And you know,
Hello,
there's
Verna.
those, and if anyone doesn't know, Verna is a friend from the Philippines. She has a great channel, really good person. I try to catch her lives when I can, but it's nice. It's I think what is it, Verna, like 8 o'clock in the morning there in the Philippines. I think they're
Oh,
12 or
wow.
13 hours ahead of us. But you know, the thing is when I saw that come down and I saw what happened to Aaron and the way it all went down, not only did that scream OSA to me or Scientology,
Yeah.
especially the statements that I heard when it came from with Claire, and this floored me when I heard the what was reported as what she had said to the then acting chairman of the board. Remove to paraphrase, remove Aaron, or if you're not going to do your job, step down and let someone else do it. And that just screamed Scientology to me. What were your thoughts on that whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw the email, I saw the receipts, and it was just, whoa, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it was definitely not what was presented in that Aftermath board video.
you
It
know,
was not.
and Ken, Karma, and it's all splendid to witness. You know, when we're trying to build this community where everyone, we're trying to get it so it's open and inclusive, and something like this happens, it knocks us back so many paces in the efforts to try to build this community. And I agree. You
I get
see
the
a car
outrage.
wreck, everybody slows down and wants to see it.
Yeah.
So I understand completely what you're saying on there.
I understand the anger too.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I deal with things with humor sometimes,
Yep.
and after that thing that Mark, had put out about spokes holes, I put all my Blown for Good gear that I bought from their merch shop, from the
Yep.
BFG merch shop. And I was like, I don't think I'm a random, spokes hole. I was a very, very big supporter, huge
Yeah.
supporter.
Well, we both jumped in feet first.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
were both in there. We were helping out best as we could. I tried, I don't know how many times, to try to get either Claire or Mark to come on, or for me to do a live with them, because I really wanted to get their story out there. I really wanted to talk to them. And I'll admit, it did feel like it was a burn that I couldn't even get a response. And I remember, I think I talked to you about it, about the fact that I had set days and times I was doing lives, and I was putting these out there up to a week in advance, and I would go live, and then I would get overstepped by them because they would announce it a half hour before and go live at the same time I was. And I tried to talk to them. What I wanted to do was, hey, if you guys are going to do it on a certain time, a certain day, let me know. You guys are the former members. I will move mine so that you can have that space and we're not conflicting with each other. I never got a response. And I think you and I had talked about that before.
Yeah.
And to me,
Yeah.
that was something that stuck in my craw there pretty good. So,
Right. And, that's why I either go on, in the morning or late at night, because I do feel like, I want to give them priority, but
yep.
they could have given you a response. It's like, anything.
A simple response of, sorry, but we've got 10,000 subscribers. You have, 2,000-3,000 subscribers, and too bad. That would have been a response. I could have dealt with that, but to ignore it and not even respond to me, well, that was the stinging part. Anna Casillas, thank you for that super.
Thank
The
you.
letter stating Aaron's actions were not aligned with their traditional values was so nasty. Where are their traditional values and morals now? I mean, a
Mhm.
lot of stuff was put out there as in the public about what was going on with the Aaron thing.
Yeah.
But yet, have we gotten any official response or anything from that? Your lawyers and friend Zach will be on at 20:30. That's 10:30 if you don't know, 8:30 if you don't know, folks. And yeah, I think he's an hour behind us. So on the Crumley verdict.
20:30.
Oh, that's interesting. And thank you for that, super. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So the thing is that this whole thing has just to me, it's just felt like a mess from the start as this has gone on. There's a lot of things I think they're very inappropriate in the way that they were done. And the fact that there has been little to no response from anyone on the board concerning this has also it just feels like it's a snub to those of us.
Right. And when there is a response, it's like name calling and contempt and disdain
Yeah,
and not compassionate. So
yeah,
it's just awful. It's just awful.
yeah. I'm going back through some of these starred comments and questions that we got. Spurs one. I think the problem is Mike and the rest of the AFF not being open, being totally closed up on all this. I agree.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yep. Oh,
I think
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think that's a major problem there.
Transparency and honesty is in order. And
Yeah.
humility. Mhm.
And you folks know that that's one of the big things for me is I am very big on transparency.
Yeah.
All right. That's how it should be. Because Claire and especially Render could have played a part. So I don't know what that was in reference to, folks. You got to remember we got over 650 watching live, so
Right.
it gets a little hard to keep up with
Right.
the comments in there and everything. Trying to get subs to start auditing my Columbus, Ohio org, really small, but I think all of its power to the cause. Yes, exactly. I am going to be showing some of the folks like this next person, Matt Elliott, MMA, SPTV Canada. And if
Hey,
you haven't
Matt.
checked out his channel, Matt, throw your link in there for everybody. They have a lawyer on the actual board, so not sure why they had to use another one. It
I
is
can tell you
possible
why.
that Ray Jeffries didn't agree with sending it. I think
Um,
that. Go ahead. Go
you're not
ahead.
supposed to. Oh, yeah, I know you're going to say the same thing as me, so go ahead.
Okay. I think that the simple fact that lawyer on the board recused himself from it, that's my feeling with it, and that they had another attorney who actually works for the foundation handle it instead of
Yeah,
having
the
a board member do it.
the fact that there's a lawyer on the board doesn't mean he should do the lawyering. I don't. That's
Yeah,
not really. It's frowned upon. I don't know if it's against any ethical code or any
right.
state laws. They're nonprofits uh, are also oversight by the state.
Well, that's
State
that's
by
another
state.
question I've
So,
got. Is ethics something that can actually come back and harm a nonprofit?
oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
You know,
And I don't just know for Massachusetts, someone
mhm.
can file a complaint to the Attorney General's office, which goes
Ooh,
to the
yeah,
charitable. I forgot the name of it, but
yeah,
yeah, and they look into it because it's
amazing. Yeah,
even things not just financial issues, but kind of things like this. I'm not encouraging anybody to report them. I'm just saying
right.
that if you get conflicts of interest and the population to which they serve, like Miriam, being treated like that, that's not good.
You,
Not
you
good.
you can't say you're out there to help everyone who's a
No,
former Scientologist and then refuse to help someone who's asking for it. I just
refuse to
don't see how that.
give them an answer.
Yeah,
And
uh,
also, I think they should have just not touched that with a 10-foot pole because and
yeah.
this was something I want to ask you is when you heard that Mike was, constantly emailing her asking if she had recorded the phone call. And then when he said that he had information from the lawyer of the production company
Mhm.
about the affidavit, he said, I have the information or I talked to the lawyer, but I'm not going to give you the information, which had to do with her case until you
That-
answer my questions. Is that considered obstruction of justice or anything?
Mm, it wouldn't be because it's not if the police department or the prosecutor's office had. Now remember, I'm not an attorney. I'm going from experience that I've seen in the past. But where it can be as seen as obstruction of justice or obstruction in the investigation or whatever is when the police department or the prosecutor's office requests that information.
Okay.
And that's where that would be considered as some kind of obstruction. I think that the best thing that would have happened, and believe me, I stand behind Miriam on this. Okay. She's a victim and she needs to be given due care and caution as you're dealing with her. I think that the best thing would have been have whatever the investigating body that is handling this, have them make the approach to try to get those documents. If they had been asked for and there hadn't been received, then the next step would be let the police, let the prosecutor handle that. Because if they send the response, they send the question out there, say, we want these documents, would you please provide them? And the response is no. Then the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to end up with a subpoena on the doorstep saying you will give those documents. So I think that would have been the best way to handle it. And hopefully that's what's going to happen is they're actually going to go in there and they're going to subpoena those documents, or they're actually going to end up with an actual warrant to go and remove those documents.
Right.
So,
I think she said that it wasn't completely the case wasn't hanging on that. It wasn't completely necessary, but she wants it for her own because she was led to believe that, her mother said she wouldn't make a statement. And then when the show aired, when her episode aired, it said that they had one. So she wanted to see it. I don't know if there's something in it that might incriminate Mike. I have no idea what's in it.
Here's the problem I've got
for her own peace of mind. She wants to see that communication from
how many documents has he handed over to Mark, and Mark has put out there publicly that was being shown on his channel. If you're doing that, what is the problem with giving the documentation to Miriam so she can at least have that peace of mind? She can have that step towards closure on this. I was blown away.
Well, they said it was lost. They thought that the production company lost it. I don't believe it. I don't really feel like they lie. I do. Yeah. And that's something I don't respect at all.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something in it they didn't want her to see. I don't know.
And could it be incriminating in that documentation? Very well could be. I don't know. We haven't seen it.
Oh, why is it they have control of, the Aftermath Foundation, the public funds? They have control of these spy files that are out. They have control of Miriam's mom's affidavit. They have control of the public opinion. They had control of the narrative. No more. Done.
This sounds I say it again. This sounds so OSA in the way that this is being
they were
handled.
OSA. I don't think they still are. I mean,
I don't think they are.
Theories. No, but they have not. They haven't shed their Scientological way of thinking.
Haven't that mindset. Yeah. That's what they haven't shed, is that whole mindset of this is how we've done it for decades. And we're now into the real world. Instead of taking on the mantle of I'm in the real world now and I need to act like a everyday person, falling back on that. That's the feeling that I get from this whole thing, is that if falling back into old practices and doing it the way it's been handled from within Scientology. Let's see, Cynthia Butler, Claire, Mark, and Mike and his wife should be advisors, not board members of the Aftermath Foundation. They cannot hold possessions of power for financial decisions over victims that they may have helped to create. That's a really good, that last statement.
Absolutely true. Absolutely.
Talk about hitting the nail on the head with that one. Wow.
Yeah. And at the very least, I think that they should get, it's customary for couples on the board to have one vote each couple, and then get more people on the board.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I've just the whole thing of having couples on there and they each have a singular vote. I mean, in all honesty, you and your spouse aren't going to discuss this so that you make sure you're on the same playing field when you go in to vote. I mean, it just screams of impropriety from my personal standpoint of it. Linda, and yes, you're a proud flea board warrior there. Rabbit has a bachelor's degree in criminology. Yes, I remember that. Oh, a master in social. Wow. she was the perfect person for Miriam to turn to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've said it before. I think that was a great interview on Rabbit's part. I think I have a lot of respect for Rabbit and how
I do
she
too.
does stuff. So,
Mhm.
Modern Dancer. Facebook used, not for Miriam, but Claire used Facebook to find other people who needed help from the Aftermath Foundation. I'm not discrediting the Facebook as to making initial contact and all that, but I think that once that contact was made, then the proper ways of contacting each other should have been put together at that point, and move it from a forum that is hundreds, if not thousands, of people are hacked daily. I can't tell you how many times a day I get messages from people that have links in them, and then you see the person posting because they've created a new account saying, "Don't go to my old account."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Someone asked a question. I think I lost it now, but about, and I wanted to get your take on it too, not to interrupt, but about how Miriam said that Mike Rinder had contacted the investigator that was standing in for the one that was on leave, and he went around her and contacted that investigator. And she was so traumatized and scared and intimidated that she was actually asking for help from the Aftermath Foundation for therapy for what he had pretty much inflicted upon her with all of this intimidation.
That's
crazy.
crazy. Whoever posted that, if you could repost that, I would really appreciate it. There's, like I said, we have over 700 people in watching live right now, so it gets a bit hard to keep up with it sometimes.
Right.
Let's see. Calico, thank you for that. Will you go over Mark's post? Folks, if you don't know, my life is so hectic right now. I have so many things going on. I have a good friend who's very ill with cancer. There's just so much going on in my personal life right now. I've been trying to keep on top of this, but it's hard. There's so much coming out every single day.
If you want to see it and you haven't seen it, Nora, Nora has the screenshots of the post
that's who I was trying to think of
on her community page. Yes.
And make sure you support Nora. She has been through a complete-ish show with hatred and things that are coming out. I mean, you talk about someone already traumatized from what they've come out of to come into the SPTV world, and just the blatant attacks that have been made on her. Nora needs that support. So make sure you show that love. Liz, the same thing. Just the despicable things that have been done to Liz. It breaks
my God.
heart.
I know.
What is your opinion of a public charity board being staffed by? We've been going over that quite a bit. I think we've
not kosher, not good, good. No.
Let's see. Question: with Facebook Messenger, when you delete a conversation, does this delete their copy? My memory is short. I don't believe it does. I believe it only deletes it in your history of it.
If you delete it, it tells the other person that you.
Does it?
If you delete it for both, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just I don't know. My Facebook Messenger's got
People have
probably
done that to me.
32 million messages in there. I'm too stupid to delete them. Question: when the same people serve on the Aftermath board together and do YouTube videos together, isn't that considered a conflict of interest?
Yeah, that was something I wrote down. Yeah. I think so. It's very least it's blurring the lines. I did a community post today. I just want to read the mission statement of the Aftermath Foundation, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to put up this super chat real quick.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Freedom from religion. I was assaulted in DC by a Scientologist. It's on my YouTube channel. Make sure you give me a link to that. Freedom from religion. I'll put my email address back in. DC police just notified me of its report today. The wheels of justice turn slowly. Well, I mean, as a former law enforcement officer, I'm telling you, a lot of times it does.
Thank you for the super chat too.
Yeah, thank you so much. But the thing is, and I can tell you, as a former detective sergeant, that when I would come in, there would be a stack of reports every morning that I would get. So sometimes, it can be a slow process to get there. But my thing is that I tried to make sure I hit every one of them. And I either personally called the reporting party, or I sent out a letter. I made sure that somehow they were contacted. and they knew that something was progressing. So I'm glad that you got notice that DC police are working on it. And I know that they're a very busy organization. So hopefully there will be some outcome for you. So you were looking something up?
Yeah, if you don't mind me reading this one paragraph from
Right
my
ahead.
community page. Okay.
No,
So we're
don't do
talking
it.
about we're talking about the aftermath purpose and mission statement as stated on their website. Our purpose is to help those who want to leave the Scientology and the Sea Org, but who lack a system of support that they can rely on while getting on their feet in the outside world. And then I wrote, the first thing I learned in the nonprofit sector was that the mission statement, though usually short and simple, is very, very important. It can keep a nonprofit on track if things start to go awry. There is no mention in the Aftermath Foundation mission statement of fighting Scientology itself. However, the lines have been blurred between the purpose of the Aftermath Foundation and the personal focus of the board members and their individual YouTube channels. The board, made up primarily of 3 couples who were once in top Scientology executives, constantly remind us that the object of this movement is to take down Scientology and not to criticize each other. Keep your eye on the prize. In other words, pay no attention to how we are treating the survivors. We call the shots. Give us your money, no questions asked.
Wow. And what's that from?
Me, I wrote it.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good.
My community page today.
I completely concur with that. I think that the line between their mission is supposed to be helping people coming out, getting them on their feet, getting them into the secular world. And for those of you who don't know what that is, there's the religious world, and then there's the secular, which is a non-religious world. And the whole purpose of the Aftermath Foundation, as I understood it from day one, was to take those people who had been victims of this cult, get them into civilian life and be able to start building productive lives for themselves. And then when I, to see all this where it has turned from being that kind of thing to where it seems like there's a whole lot of point to taking down Scientology. You can do that on your own, but linking it into the actual organization, I think that is very wrong in and of itself.
And it was being used to silence people, even victims, saying like, this isn't helping take down Scientology. This part of it, though. It's part of the whole battle against Scientology. And silencing people and saying, don't criticize, don't ask questions. You're letting OSA win. I was told, I had somebody who is very good friends with them, message blowing up my inbox telling me I needed to be more discreet. Well, I came from a very traditional, spiritual, moral, traditional background, and the word discreet is a trigger word for me. Because women are to be discreet, workers at home, gentle, quiet, covering your face and being submissive to their husbands.
I say now, cover the mouth, but not the face.
Oh, shush.
And folks, do not take that as any more than me just ribbing Marilyn and anything. The thing is that I've said it a million times. I have so much respect for Marilyn.
I don't.
Yeah, you know how to take it. It's just like the hashtag.
Oh, totally. I know who wears the pants in your family, and it's your wife.
Yeah, I take a beating on a regular basis. So, question, Marilyn, do you check on 501c?
How do you check?
How do you check on a 501? A friend, thank you. A friend has one. We are curious how much she has in it and the uses of the money. Aren't they supposed to actually?
It's public. Yeah. There's several ways. It depends. Like if you look up mine, it's not a GuideStar because we're not really big enough for it to. It just says it's not rated yet, because we're not really on the radar. We're very small, but there are checks and balances that we do have to file not only to the IRS but to the state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, every year, and let them know, who's still on the board. They have all our information. They have the breakdown of what we do, and it is public. If you look up, I'm not sure how you would find, like she said, her friends. It kind of depends on state, but you can look it up. It may be on something like Charity Watch, GuideStar. If it's a small nonprofit, you can write to, Attorney General, or even look up on the IRS site. There might be, if you have the EIN number,
Yeah.
And
I always
then, yeah.
thought that it had to all of the information had to be made public
Oh, it
in one
is.
way or
Yes.
another.
Yes. I
So
just,
yeah,
as far as where it's posted,
yeah,
ours would be on the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, you may have to do some digging, but the
Mhm.
thing is that as far as I knew, it had to be public. Mary
Yeah.
Smith, question: it used to be true if a nonprofit disbands, they must divest themselves of all holdings and assets into another nonprofit that serves a
Yes.
similar public good.
Correct. Correct.
Well, very
Yes.
good question. We have
Yeah.
some really good questions here.
No, it's a
So
very good question, and that's absolutely true.
yeah,
If, like I said, if the board just decided, we were done, not calling for anyone's resignation. If they decided, forget this, all 7 of them
right.
decided no. So what would have happen is either there would be a new board that would have to take over. I'm not sure what that process would look like, but those funds, that $250,000 or whatever's left now, would have to be donated to another nonprofit if the Aftermath Foundation were to dissolve, which I hope against hope that it doesn't, because I can separate the two completely. The Aftermath Foundation, like I said in the beginning, it belongs to no one and everyone.
Yep.
So, yeah,
And that's
that's that.
the thing is, though, even though you're on the board, you're not the owner. You're just supposed to be
No.
the caretaker.
And in
So
fact, you are under scrutiny because this is this precious thing that
mhm,
you are given oversight. You are the custodian, you know? And again, just having trauma informed people that can treat people fairly. If someone's getting answers 1 to 2 days and Miriam's getting punished because she dared to ask Mike Rinder some questions, that's just not good. Not
yeah.
good, guys. And I'm glad she
It
came
hurts me to
forward.
see it that it's happening.
Yeah, me
Let's
too.
see. Oh, sorry. And I think we've addressed this, and I think we we're
Mhm,
both in agreement that there needs to be some kind of statement as to that.
mhm.
Dwayne Mansell, why has Mike Render not been held accountable for his crimes against humanity? There's probably a million different reasons. None of us know. He may be working behind the scenes with some kind of law enforcement body to try to bring down others. And we know that oftentimes in a situation like that, people will get immunity from it. So there's a lot of different reasons that may be happening. I'm not personally involved with it. I don't know, but I have been asking that question myself. When the board votes, don't they need to update the minutes?
Oh, when the board votes, don't they need to update the minutes?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean by update, but yes, they vote on the minutes of the previous to accept the minutes.
Well,
Yes. Is
it's
that what you're
supposed when they
asking?
vote, it's supposed to be documented and it's supposed to
Yes.
be read out at the next meeting, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. They have to
We
keep
don't
minutes of
necessarily
the
read
meeting.
all of our minutes, but
Yeah.
we do because
Well, you
we
break
don't
it down
have a
into
public.
categories. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we vote on accepting the minutes into the records.
And
Mhm.
I could tell you my experience through governmental boards and their minutes is that the way that they'll do it is that they have a more concise and more I don't know what you call it, where transcribed version that is put into record. But when it comes to voting on the minutes from the prior meeting, it's basically just a skeleton outline of what happened in the prior meeting. But yeah, they have to keep records of the minutes in public uh, government agencies. So I'd figure it'd be the same for something like
Mhm.
that. Even for actual for-profit companies, there's a lot of things like that, especially if you're traded on the open market and you're considered a public domain, then it all has to be out there. So, do you think this situation would harm them getting donations in the future? I
It
think it's
already has.
already harming it. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Question: shouldn't they have to give a reason why Miriam was turned down for help? Sounds like it was because she made Mike mad. This is not a reason to be turned down. I agree, it's a reason she
Um
shouldn't be turned down. But what do you
No,
think?
I don't think they officially turned her down. They just froze her out and disconnected from her, like they have Mike Brown, like they have many other people that have asked them any questions. Dead
Wow,
silence. Like they have the hundreds, if not thousands of people that unsubscribed from their personal YouTube channels because they were called names and never given an answer and never given an apology.
I just
So
I think
silence, and always attacked. What do they say? Never defend, always
Always
attack.
attack.
Attack. What does I keep saying? Attack.
This whole
Yeah.
thing has given me
Yeah.
the air of like those super villain movies where you have the council of villains sitting high above the
Yeah.
people that they're going against, and they're shadowy figures that are that's this whole vibe I'm getting from this.
Yeah. Well, I think of like somebody like sitting on their throne, like what did they say in
Let them eat
the
cake.
royal family? Yeah, the royal family was like they say never complain, never explain.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't owe you an explanation. You're a mere peasant. You're a peasant.
Yeah.
Off with your head. Go away.
If you want my help and you want me to help you in what you're doing, then
Yeah,
you need
show
to do
some
some
respect.
explaining. How can they serve a population about assisting people into the outside world if people have never been in the outside world? It's like the blind leading the blind into a country. I agree. That's why
Very
I
good
think
point.
that the foundation needs at least one person on there that has never been in. I think that's a very important thing that should be done. Let's see. Oh, the SPs at Sea Cruise is a go. See Chun Yun Smut's community page for the details, and there's the link to it, folks.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I know. I can't wait.
All right. Let's see here. Okay. Oh no, Nora shared Mark Headley's response. Have you? I think we just went over that, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, it's actually okay.
On her page. Yeah.
Khaleesi. Okay. I apologize. I
Someone said,
butcher names.
Ann Casillas said, anyone that ghosts Mike Brown and Rosemary is toast in my book. And absolutely. Like, this is another thing that I'm seeing, and I could be totally wrong. This is just my opinion, is it seems like people are being kind of love bombed until they start asking questions, or they're no longer of use to certain people. And what does that sound like? Scientology.
Yeah.
And it sounds a little bit like a narcissistic abuser too, honestly. I'm not saying anybody's a narcissist or a psychopath, or sociopath, but yeah, it's not nice. Not nice to do.
And Diane Addicts.
That's Marisa. Hi, Diane. Diane Addicts. That's her. That's her channel. It's Marisa.
I'm stupid. Too many hits to the head, folks. The current Aftermath board brings me back to when I was on staff. All of their tactics, the way they removed Aaron and called a Scientology ethics handling. Aaron mentioned it on his show, and that's something that we both have said. We both agree on that it screams of Scientology, and it screams of OSA. Here you go. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. Y'all typing too fast for me. Oh, there we go. All right. Question: what happened with Mike Brown and the board? If you could give us a little bit into that.
Right. He explained it last week on the tail end of he's been doing videos every week with his mom. She does a video. She does a pre-recorded video, and then he premieres it live and talks about it and takes questions. Someone did ask him about the situation, and he said that he had tried even before Rabbit to reach out to the board on Miriam's behalf, and they just froze him out and stopped answering him, which is really sad. And Mike Brown is not, an emotional, given to quote drama. Like, no,
Yeah. And Ann was saying he put it in there, and he gave credit to them for helping his mom get out.
Yeah, he did. He did.
And then won't answer his questions, just like you're saying. That's crazy. Sir Crepitus, Marilyn, thank you for your time and input. Mr. Poe, you were right about deserving an answer. Many people, including myself, donated to them and feel as you do.
Yeah,
folks,
you have every right to.
I'm just one small fish in all the people who gave to this. There are people who literally gave hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to this. So, what I did and how much I gave, I feel is nothing in comparison to other people. There are a lot of people who are on fixed incomes or don't have a lot of money, who scraped together what they could just so they could donate to this, because they are so the fire in their heart. They want to do the right thing for this, and to have this happen, this really hurts so many people.
Yeah.
Freedom from religion. I appreciated what Mike tried to do, but a red flag was his steadfast refusal to get counseling time and again when Leah would push him to get help. I personally, I think that a lot of people who've been in cults, that's a big thing, is they need some kind of counseling or something. Marilyn, I think that you've done a wonderful job with your transition out of being in a cult. You know, you have your family. Now, did you actually seek any kind of counseling, or if you don't want to answer,
No,
I
I
don't
will.
I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
rush
can.
that.
Yeah, I have it. It was, I don't know if it's called therapy or counseling. I don't know the difference, but
Mhm.
we've had each of us in our family have had individual counseling.
Awesome.
We've had marriage counseling. We've had family counseling, and it's really helped a lot. And I'll say too is that I know people like Doug Kramer and Blow Drill that's in the chat. Dylan had a difficult time leaving Scientology, and they tell their story that they were even homeless for a time. I remember
Yeah.
Doug saying that kind of like saved his sanity in a way, to have to go out in the world and make it on his own and not be insulated and isolated. Because I do think that if you leave a cult, but you create your own bubble where you don't have to be on the outside world, you don't have to realize, to learn how to function, how people function, then all of a sudden, what, 20 years later, you're treating the outside world like peasants that have to salute you when we don't understand. I
Yeah.
always say that the IC of the elemental PMC, we don't know any of that.
Yeah. I don't know the
We don't salute
nomenclature,
them. We don't.
you know,
Yes, it
and
doesn't.
hitting
We're
on
all
that,
equal. We're all equal.
hitting on that, I love Doug. Doug was a friend, and I really valued his friendship. And it really hurt when he disconnected from me there towards the end. But also, I never gave up hope on whether or not he would get back in touch with me. I held to that hope that he would somehow reach out to me at some point, and it broke my heart to find what you saw. I called you that
I
morning. I
know.
was just
Yeah,
torn
yeah.
up.
And he
Um,
always spoke well of you. It was nothing personal. He would just
yeah,
have his times that he felt like he had to distance himself from certain things, and it
and
had nothing to do with you. You
Doug
know.
had, folks, and I'm going to be 100% honest because I considered him a friend and a brother, but he had demons he had to work out with, and he had to fight. And it broke my heart. I wish that we had stayed in contact, and hopefully we could have had a different ending to this story.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example of what's going on with a lot of people coming out of Scientology.
Right.
They have been so broken and battered by what they've lived through and the ordeals they've had to deal with. And that's why having an organization that is not questioning whether or not you're going to praise them or you're going to make them look good, like
Mhm.
an organization that just says, okay, you need help. How do you need help? What can we do for you? One of the things that got me so behind the Aftermath Foundation was talking to Aaron, and how he said, we've got a lot of people that are coming to us, and some of them are willing to come out and tell their story. Others don't want to, and we're not going to push it with them. And that told me right there, we're going to help them. And it doesn't matter if they're coming out and helping us by telling their story. If they need that help, we're going to be there for them. And I think it's just been so convoluted, and it's been so transformed over this time.
Mhm.
That's the feeling that I get from it, that there's been so many changes in the way that they're handling and helping people,
Yeah.
that it really bothers me with that.
Yeah, and back to the thing about not operating in the outside world. Doug,
Mm.
Doug was, he wasn't still affected, and probably, did have. I mean, who doesn't? I had my own demons, but what I was saying was, as far as seeing how the real world operated, and him being able to kind of separate himself from that, and so he called a lot of this. He called out a lot of the things that we are just seeing now.
Let's
Uh,
remember that back in the early days of the SPTV world, Doug was the big dog. He was one of the originals out there doing the live streams, and he was had one of the biggest audiences. And then they kept whittling away and chipping away at him till finally they got all of his accounts
yeah,
deleted.
yeah,
So, he had a very strong voice there, and then suddenly he has nothing. And when I had heard about it and I got in contact with Doug, and there were a lot of people who worked to help get Doug back on his feet with what was going on. And it breaks my heart. I
yeah.
think
I
I'm
miss
done
him,
talking about it, but
and I think that he would be happy that we're talking about things and letting people ask questions and holding space,
And
because that's
smoking
what
that
he
cigarette
did.
while he's doing
I
it.
know,
So.
and that's what he did. Can you scroll up a little bit up to Dianetics, Marisa?
Let me
She's
know
been
when I'm getting
trying to 9:38 p.m. Dianetics, all caps. Marty Rathbun was Leah's first choice.
Let's see here. Well, look at
She's
all these comments.
she's trying to get she's trying to get our attention,
Oh,
but
there we go.
I can't click on it. There it is.
Oh, that's all right. Marty Rathbun was Leah's first choice. He declined, so they got stuck with Render. Wow.
You didn't know.
I
I
did
didn't
not
know
know
that
that.
either, but
Wow.
yeah,
I
I
always
found that
thought
a
that
few months ago.
her and Mike were like bestest buddies. And that's why it came about like that. Wow. And that's a crazy one with Marty and what's going on with him. And I've heard from people who personally knew him very well and what was going on with him and why he was back into the fold of Scientology and everything. And just pray for him, folks. That's best I can say for it.
And
All
she's
right.
saying Marty's belief system has always been Scientology. Oh, it's going so fast. Yeah. People need to stop believing fluff pieces by bloggers and journalists. They need to start listening to those who were raised in Scientology. Yeah. I agree with that. And Dianetics, Marisa, I think we're going to do a stream this week.
Excellent.
So
I can't wait to see that.
Everyone's voice matters. Awesome. Yeah. Everyone's voice matters.
Yeah. And here, Lizeka. Now I'm feeling a little betrayed. So many other victims. Folks, we have no idea how many victims are out there. We never will. That's the problem, is that there are so many people that you will never hear about because they got out and they're so afraid of being fair gamed or anything else happening. And
more are coming out though. Like Gabrielle Toth, I did a stream with her. She called me up the day before yesterday, said since Miriam's, she just couldn't, she had to speak. And there were cover-ups and abuses. You could watch the stream. It's yesterday on her channel. What is it called? Called Escaping the Cultiverse A, and also on my channel. But she talked about the Vancouver org and also this situation here.
And there's a lot of people asking about Leah and whether she's going to make a response or not. Leah's not on the board. She has been a supporter. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't see Leah holding her tongue. I mean, let's face it, when they were trying to get rid of Aaron, he brought out the fact that she actually came forward and said, "What the F, folks? What are you doing here?" Right. So she may have a response for it. She may not, but
yeah, I've heard she is coming out in a little bit in support of Mike, but that may change. I don't know. I think for her own, her own reputation, her own career, and her own everything, she should probably just not talk about it.
I think that no matter what happens, I think Leah is going to stand strong behind her beliefs either way. Mm-hmm. She has, from my understanding, from the things I hear her say, I think that she has a very close connection with Mike, and they are almost like family. So, if she did come out in support of Mike, I would say, that's what's going to happen because she has a completely different viewpoint of it. Well, Marilyn,
she has a lawsuit going too. So
she's got a little bit on her plate.
Yeah.
We've been at this for about an hour and 45 minutes here. Yeah. And I know we were wanting to run about an hour, but any last thoughts you've got on what all's been going on here?
Well, I think that it's healthy to have discourse and be able to have questions and answer questions and talk about things. I don't see any pitchforks. You don't see any pitchforks behind me or next to me. I'm not trying to destroy anyone's character. No. I'm not taking away from all the good that Mike, Mark, and Claire have done, but there is also accountability, transparency, and humility in order. And again, I don't want to hear another person say, don't speak out publicly, don't ask questions. You're letting Scientology win. If you're drama, If advocating for our wounded and our people that need to have an advocate, that need to have a voice, if that's drama, then okay, bring it on.
I think that before we can even try to heal, we have to confront the issue.
Yeah.
That's why, every one of my live streams in the last few days have been eventually devolving into what's going on here. And that's why I felt it was necessary to make this live stream and to get out there and actually discuss it.
Appreciate it. I
Listen
respect
to,
that. I do. I
yeah,
really do.
and I wanted to hear the comments from those of you who are in chat, because you have just as an important voice in this as anyone else does. We don't have an SPTV without you. So I think it's very important that we hear from you. And I think Sharona made an excellent statement. Leah will stand strong in private if she feels the need to. She wasn't involved with this. We can demand she gets dragged into it, in my own opinion. But I mean, in all honesty, if we're asking that people be allowed to have their privacy and not be forced to be involved with anything, then it should be from the top as well. We should look at Leah that same way. Folks, again, as always, I so value the fact that you would spend your time with us, listen to what we got to say, engage with us. Give us your open and honest thoughts about things. None of us are going to agree 100%. But the fact is that we've come together. Chad, make sure you log back in here, man. Make sure we come together and that we are a cohesive community, that we're caring, empathetic, that we are being open and welcoming to everyone. And I think it's so important. And someone made the comment, life is too short to be worrying about all the drama. I agree with that. But before we can move forward and actually start making the proper moves to build a stronger community to take down this cult, we've got to start coming together. And this may be something that actually brings us all together. Yeah. So, folks,
tend to the wounded.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And as always, folks, life is short. You get one shot. Make it count.